Welcome to Marketing with Confidence. I'm your host, Marianne Amies. We're going to be talking all things digital and online marketing for business owners and marketing professionals. If you've been feeling overwhelmed by your digital marketing, be sure to listen along and you'll hear tips, interviews and more that will give you the confidence to create marketing you love. Thanks for joining me today on Marketing with Confidence. I'm so excited to be joined by Hayley Maxwell. Hayley, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. I'm super excited to chat with you.
Likewise. Can you kick off by introducing yourself and telling us all how you became obsessed with intentional messaging?
As you said, I'm Hayley Maxwell, and I am a personal brand and messaging coach for introverted female coaches and consultants. I know that's a little bit of a mouthful to get out. But essentially, I have always really worked in the communication space, and I'm really passionate about helping people to communicate with intention. And obviously, a key part of that is to be able to have a really intentional brand message that you're able to share with the world. But it's a really big area for a lot of people in terms of something that they really struggle to focus on, or to have that time to really focus on and to think exactly about, what it is that they're wanting to be sharing about the work that they do and what they stand for. And so I think once you have that message that you're able to communicate really intentionally and strategically, it just makes so much else within your business far easier in terms of showing up, in terms of confidence, in terms of filling you with that conviction and courage to put yourself out there, essentially.
Oh, amazing. Look, to warm us up before we get into I've got so many questions for you. But to warm us up, I'm just going to ask you a few quick questions. What is your favorite business book?
Oh, yes. I had to really think about this because I'm a big reader. And I like to dive in and out of books. So I don't necessarily always read a whole book all at once. But I think that one that stuck out for me, and I listened to it in audio format, was one called I think it's The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. And so Shonda Rhimes is, the person who created Grey's Anatomy and other programs like that. Yeah. And she's actually an introvert as well. And so her Year of Yes all came about because, her sister said to her something like, you basically say no to everything. And so it made her realize that in so many parts of her life, personally and professionally, she was saying no to this stuff. And she was missing out on all these opportunities and experiences. And so it's really about her journey of saying yes more to things that maybe she might not have before. And so I guess from an introvert's perspective, it wasn't about saying yes to stuff that was going to perhaps, drain her all the time or not having boundaries and things like that. It was actually about saying yes to have the experience and to gain different, gain confidence, or to spend different time with her children, or, open up new opportunities. And so it's just a really fascinating listen from her experience of doing the experiment and, what it opened up for her and what she learned from it. So it's something that I really enjoyed listening to.
Oh, fantastic. And did she narrate the audiobook?
Yes, she did actually as well. So it's good. Yeah.
I don't often listen to audiobooks because I have a wandering mind. But I do love when the person that wrote the book narrates it, and especially if it's a personal story, because then you get that experience of almost like the keynote talk of it. You get their emotions and so that's fantastic. I might have to check that out.
Yeah, I do.
And then who's your best follow right now? What can't you get enough of, on LinkedIn or Instagram or podcasts or TikTok? What are you binging at the moment?
Yeah, so there's someone on LinkedIn that I really enjoy her content. LinkedIn is a platform that I've recently kind of come back to, and I'm really enjoying actually.
Oh, amazing.
And so there's a lady called Leah Turner, and her business is Leah Does LinkedIn.
Oh,
And
cool.
she's just so she's a LinkedIn trainer, but she just is a real straight shooter, I guess, in terms of her advice, and she calls out a lot of the BS that exists.
Yeah.
And she's also just got this real heart of gold, and she's witty and she's funny, and she's built a really great community around her, and she just provides incredible value as well. So I've listened to her on podcasts. I follow her obviously on LinkedIn, and always get so many great tips from her. So I think if LinkedIn is a platform that you're interested in kind of doing more on or being part of, then she's definitely someone that I really recommend to follow.
Oh, fantastic advice. And then finally, what gets you out of bed every day?
Well, apart from my alarm clock and my kids, so I would really say that it's just about, for me personally, it's really about helping. It's about kind of a bit of a fight that I've got going on, I guess. So it's really about wanting to help other women in business who are introverted to see that they don't need to be anything other than themselves in order to create a thriving, successful business. And they certainly don't need to be extroverted in order to see that success, because I think a lot of people feel like, to be successful, particularly in online business, you need to be bigger, louder, far more extroverted. And it's not, and introversion isn't some kind of impediment, it's actually kind of, the opposite.
100%.
And actually a lot of the introverted traits that people have in terms of, personality and nature can actually be a huge asset in building a really strong business and in showing up as a thought leader and, being more visible. But it's about doing it in a way that feels really aligned to you and your nature as well. So, so that's kind of, I guess, the purpose behind my work is to help people be able to do that.
Beautiful. Oh, fantastic. And I know obviously you live in New Zealand, so it'd be nice and cold in the mornings. So
it is.
Good motivation to get up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
I thought of you this morning. Obviously, we're recording this podcast quite early for Sydney time this morning, not so much on your end. And I went to get a coffee at like 7, which is, I'm not even usually out of bed at 7. And I thought, oh God, it's so cold. And then I thought, actually, poor Hayley, like I shouldn't my 9 degrees here or my 10 degrees here. I really, it's not that cold. I thought,
I think it was about 4 degrees.
Yes.
About 4 degrees here this morning. Yeah.
I think we're already at like 17. Oh no, 12 or 13, and it's only 8.
Oh, nice. Oh, you're making me jealous. The sun is shining. The sun is shining today, so that's good.
Yeah, beautiful. Look, you've started to talk a bit more about introverts, and recently you really niched down into it, into strategic messaging for introverts. So I guess explain to me what you saw in the market that encouraged you to hone in on it, or your own experiences.
I guess it's a couple of things in that, I am an introvert, and really, as I've gone through business and I've kind of, learned more and more about myself and the way that I do things in business and the things that I don't like. Over time, I've noticed that a lot of the things that I don't like in the online space, a lot of the way of being, of doing, particularly when it comes to marketing, haven't aligned with me because of my more, slightly, I guess, quieter at times or introverted nature. And I realized that for me, it's never stopped me from doing things. I've still always had that drive and that ambition. And it's really seeing it in other people as well. And, a lot of the people that I have attracted over the years have actually been introverts themselves anyway. And they've talked about some of the things that they feel really hold them back in business. And 9 times out of 10, it's things that are aligning with their introverted nature, or things that they feel that they're not able to do because we've kind of been told that, as introverts, we don't like doing this, or we don't like doing that. So there's a whole lot of myths out there that I kind of feel almost put introverts into these little boxes and keep them, sort of weigh them down, I guess. And so it was just really noticing that in myself and in my clients, and realizing that actually the skills that I've got is really about helping people to communicate with greater impact, greater intention. So from a personal brand perspective, a messaging perspective, and helping them to show up in a way that really feels good to them. And so because of that, I've really just decided to focus down on introverts in particular, because I'm able to really empathize with them, because I know the experience that they're sort of going through, and use my skills to support them to be able to have greater visibility, to talk about what they do in a really confident way, so that they can break through some of those blocks that might be holding them back.
Yeah, absolutely. And the blocks are interesting, aren't they? Because it would be a combination of not only their own, where they feel comfortable and not comfortable, but then, as you say, all the things that people say, things that people say about, oh, that's because you're introverted, or you don't like to, or even just all the pressure. And I guess that sort of leads me into, there's everyone online that's just making so much noise all the time. And there are other people that are confident to sing and dance on reels, or, jumped onto that really early. And it's been really interesting to watch over the last couple of years, because there are people that you can almost see how little they're enjoying it, but they're doing it because they think they need to. And I guess, that raises the question of, how can introverts become influential thought leaders when the market is so noisy?
Yeah, that is a really great question. I really love it. And I think that, particularly for introverts, first of all, figuring out, what it is that you actually want to be known for, and actually spending time working on your message and, defining your ideal client. And the reason that I say that is because when you really focus in on, that one ideal client, and I know kind of it's a bit of an eye roll moment when we start to talk about, ideal clients.
I love ideal client. You're preaching to the choir here. I'm a massive fan of ideal client, but I know what you mean. People are concerned about, well, how can it just be, one type of person? Yeah,
exactly. That's it. But if you focus on that one person, it means that you can really develop a message that's going to really strongly resonate with that specific person. Yeah. And what happens is when you've got that message that really strongly resonates with them, then that helps you to cut through the noise to speak to just that person, because it means that they will, sit up and pay attention, because they can see and recognize themselves in your message. Yeah. And so what it means is when you've got a really strong message, when it's really, really clear, you don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You don't need to be singing and dancing just to be heard or to be seen, to get attention. Because what happens is your message will do the hard work for you, essentially. Yeah. And it means that, you will be heard by the people that you're wanting to be heard by. Yeah. And so the idea of, cutting through the noise or standing out online, you're not trying to stand out, to everyone, and that's where people struggle, is that, it's, what am I going to do to stand out? Well, that's not the question we should be asking. Yeah. We need to be asking ourselves, how am I going to stand out? How am I going to be remembered by my one ideal client so that I can increase my chance of being chosen? And so that comes down to that messaging piece. So from a thought leadership piece, you need to have those parts first: the ideal client, what you want to be known for, your message, and then really, embracing the parts of your personality that, might be more introverted in nature, embracing that and leveraging those traits and qualities and talents that you have. And it might be, continuously developing your knowledge and your expertise, that you're going far deeper into your expertise, which again is something that, is quite a natural quality for a lot of introverts anyway. We like to go deep into topics and, particular subjects, and we can be quite passionate about things because we like to really think, we process our information internally as opposed to sort of processing it externally. So really sort of develop that knowledge, and also think about the mediums, I guess, through which you are communicating. So you don't need to be on every single platform. Pick the platform, one, that you feel most comfortable on from a marketing perspective, and two, where you actually know your people are hanging out. That's kind of that marketing 101. But absolutely. From an energy perspective, you don't want all your energy to be kind of sucked out of you by trying to be on every single platform, speaking to people everywhere. So have that primary platform, and really look at, which type of content that you like to produce as well. So it might be, you might prefer writing. If you prefer writing, then focus on writing, focus on doing deep dives in blogs and then breaking that up. Or, if you like podcasting, focus on podcasting to get your thoughts and ideas out. But really, from a thought leadership perspective, it's actually sort of sitting down and saying, look, what is it I want to say? What are my ideas around my area of expertise? What is it that I want to be kind of, again, known for? And how can I best communicate this in a way that's going to work for me? And when you start doing things in a way that's going to work for you, you're far more likely to be consistent at it as well, because you're not dreading it all the time, or it's not getting pushed to the side and you'll think, oh, I'll do that later. So I'd say, the combination of all of those things that I've just talked about, really sets you up to be able to be that thought leader in your space, and networking as well. I would add to that as well. So maybe if you prefer networking kind of more on a one-to-one basis, then then do that, and build those deeper, more meaningful relationships as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and I think it all comes down, and again, I can't agree more, to the ideal client profile that you build, and within that, you're probably looking to create alignment with them. And if your ideal client, profile is, there are elements that they will relate to that kind of introverted story, that introverted approach, the more you lean into that and the more that you humanize and talk about and express that, either, I'm a really deep thinker, or I need my recharge time, or I don't like to go to networking events that are really overwhelming. I love to catch up with people one-on-one. I think the more that you lean into the vulnerability, and it goes for extroverts as well, and talking about about how you operate and why, you'll attract people that are similar. And you even said, a lot of your clients you noticed were quite introverted. And I think the benefit of the online business world is there's so many different versions of people offering similar things, but it's the people that we end up aligning to. And, it's I think the more you tell your human story as to why you do the things you do, or why you're passionate about what you're passionate about, that almost becomes that layer that makes you really attractive to people and makes people want to work with you versus the other person that does something similar. And I think it's, for me, I always think about, with competition and people get concerned that there's other people out there similar, or someone's copied some of my this, there's so many people in the market and there's so many people offering. And I think that alignment where people feel like this person's going to get me and understand me, I think that's part of where your thought leadership goes as well, is creating that bond almost between you and your audience, so that they go, this person understands me. And I think, that humanizing of content is such a big part of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yes, we do have, competition, but, really the biggest competition that we have is one with ourselves and, two with the clutter that is out in the online space. And so, making sure that, essentially you're coming across kind of, in a really authentic way, and you're letting people see you and being unapologetically you, but really honing in and really getting laser focused on your messaging and the people that you're wanting to talk to, so you can actually just cut through that clutter as well. So, and then, competition doesn't become such a thing, because you are the only person. Sure, you might be doing something that a whole heap of other people do, but the way that you do it, the way that you approach it, your personality, your experiences that you bring to it, all add up to make it different and unique to someone else. So
no, totally. So I guess, to kind of wrap up, I really love the phrase and the concept of intentional messaging. And I think it just sort of ties into what you've just said again about the clutter and the noise that's out there. I guess, what are your tips for becoming really intentional with your messaging? And I guess that comes back to that, not just contributing to noise, but actually, having a really strong outcome. What are your top tips?
Yes, I would say that first of all, as I've already sort of mentioned, is around that understanding what it is that you actually want to be known for. Because if you don't know what you want to be known for, then it's going to make it really hard to figure out what you're actually going to be talking about. So, and sure, for example, if you are a social media manager, something like that, then, or a social media coach, then sure, you'll talk about social media, obviously, but there's got to be something bigger than just talking about, the tactics, I guess, and sharing tips and tricks. There's more depth to you as a person. So really sitting down and thinking about what that greater purpose is. A bit like the question you asked earlier, what makes you actually get out of bed? Why do you do the work that you do? So really sitting down and figuring that out. And once you know those things, it means that you can then start to think really intentionally about the kinds of messaging that you're putting out there. Obviously, this is assuming that you are really clear on that ideal client as well, so that you can bring those two parts together into your messaging. And so I always encourage people to think about it from a theme perspective. So what is that big overarching theme for your brand, for your business? What is that thing that you're fighting for or against, essentially? And that becomes kind of a theme, a driver for your communication. And so you create your core message, for example, and then you would think about, what are your messaging pillars? What are those 3 or 4 core topics that you want to be talking about on repeat, so that you are able to get known for those specific topics. And underneath each of those those kind of core topics, you would have your key messages or your key talking points. So that you're always making sure that you're tapping into those core messages. So that it basically keeps you really focused and really on track with communicating with your audience, so that over time you can build up, that image, that perception, that you're wanting to cultivate about you and your brand, or your personal brand. So I think it's thinking about communication from that really strategic way. It's, what does my audience need to hear? What do they need to know about me? And, how can I also, through my messaging, show them who I am as a person and what's important to me, so that we can begin to connect with them on that deeper level that sort of helps us to build more of that community, I guess, around our work, with people who are, excited to kind of see us in their news feed or in their podcast feed, or, because they enjoy the way that we talk about things. They really feel connected to us. So I think, it's about really focusing on that message first, and sort of breaking it down so that you can be quite methodical about your approach to messaging.
Yeah. It's funny, even just at the end there, I was thinking, the other great benefit of having really clear messaging is other people know what to refer you for. When you follow somebody that is so succinct about how they help, it may not even be for you, but then when somebody else is talking about a problem, you're like, oh, I know the perfect person for this. You've got to follow this person that I follow. Like, their content is exactly what you need. They're like their advice or their messages. And I think that's the other really big benefit, is that when it's so crystal clear what you do and it's so purposeful, people then, you get that virality in some way where people then can also talk about you on your behalf and know what you do. I think we see that all the time with our clients, where we say, we can't assume that everybody knows all the things that we do unless we're talking to them about it. And, again, with the noise that is social media, especially, so many competing messages, we can't expect that the people on the journey with us see everything, number one, and then remember everything. And people are joining your journey all the time. And if you're not continually having those brand messages and having those messages out there of who you are, who you help, what you do, you're missing out, because someone that joins today isn't going to go and read the last 30 posts.
No, that's it. And I think also the other thing that I would add is, so getting your message out there. So, a lot of people get stuck on getting their messages out there. They're not sure what they want to say. So all of these things will help with that. But you have to get your message out there. You have to start sharing it and listening to what people are saying in response, looking at, and I know you like talking about sort of the data behind marketing. So looking at that data and what that is telling you about the messages that you are sharing as well. And from that, so this is, using those awesome listening skills that, particularly introverts have, they love to listen, so it's looking at that and it's analyzing that and refining your message strategically based on that data that's coming through, based on what people are saying and how they're responding and engaging. So you can't do any of that refining until you actually start to share your message out there. So if you're stuck in that message, that messaging kind of problem of thinking, how do I want to talk about this? Brainstorm it. Start getting it out there, your message, and then start refining it, because that is the best way to get over any of those blocks around, I just don't know what I want my message to be. It's seeing what is also going to resonate with your audience.
Oh, it's such a great point. I think I've realized over the years that clients that struggle the most with perfectionism are actually just not 100% sure, that they either feel nervous about launching the thing, or they're not 100% sure that they're saying the right thing. And then the perfectionism holds them up, the website that never goes live, the content that gets changed constantly. And we try to encourage them, and you've hit it there exactly. Just get started, just put something out. It doesn't matter if it's not the best version or the perfect version, and you'll build it as you go. You'll learn. I think you make such a great point. The comments that you get back, the DM conversations, the data, the actual hard data that you see, all of that helps you go, oh, okay, so when I talk about this, people really engage. When I talk about that, they're not. I still want to talk about that. So what do I need to do? How do I reframe it? How do I represent it? And I think, all of marketing is constantly testing and learning and doing better. And messaging is obviously no different and a massive part of that. So that's really, really good insight as well.
Yeah, I think, so I do some little personal brand audits, and pretty much when people come to me and they say, I'm struggling to get traction, on social media, or I'm struggling to get traction for XYZ. When I go and have a look at their website, their social media channels, invariably it comes down to their messaging. So their messaging not being clear enough, or, their ideal client not being focused enough, which means that their messaging just isn't sharp enough and it's not coming across well. I think it's just really thinking about that and then getting it out there and just refining that message, is the best way to approach it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time and all your advice. How can people get in touch with you and work with you, Hayley?
My pleasure. Well, thank you for having me. And so best place to find me is hayleymaxwell.com. And also, come and find me on LinkedIn, which is my new playground that I'm really enjoying.
Oh, amazing. Well, you've shared so many great tips and insights, and I'm sure, following along with you on LinkedIn will probably give people even more of that goodness. So thank you so much. And look forward to you again soon. Hey, thanks for listening to another episode. If you don't want to miss one, make sure you subscribe to the show in your podcast app. And if you love it, be sure to share it with friends and colleagues who you think could benefit from increasing their digital marketing confidence. Want more? Head to marianneamies.com to find out how you can work with me directly, to reach out to have me speak at your event, or to grab yourself some free resources.